The white lilies hit the marble floor first, scattering petals like snow. Then came the coffee, dark, scalding, spreading across the chest of a man whose name made grown men whisper. Lena Marlowe didn't know who Roman Viscari was when she crashed into him that morning. She only knew the lobby went silent, knew his gray eyes turned cold as winter, knew that when he smiled, barely, cruelly, and said she owed him a debt, her ordinary life ended. Want to know what happens when a florist accidentally destroys a crime boss's $5,000 suit? Hit like, drop your city in the comments, and follow me to the end. You won't believe where this goes. The morning started the way most of Lena's mornings started, with dirt under her fingernails and hope in her chest. She'd been up since 5, loading the delivery van with arrangements for the Grandview Hotel's spring gala. White lilies mostly, with touches of eucalyptus and those cream-colored roses that cost more than her weekly grocery budget. Her boss, Carol, had been clear. Mess this up, and the shop loses its biggest contract. No pressure. Lena didn't mind pressure. Pressure kept you sharp, kept you moving forward instead of thinking too hard about the fact that you were 24 living in an apartment the size of a shoebox, and your biggest accomplishment this year was keeping a cactus alive for 6 consecutive months. The Grandview sat on the edge of the city like a crown, all glass and marble, and the kind of quiet money that didn't need to announce itself. Lena had delivered there twice before, always through the service entrance, always with her head down. Today should have been the same. Should have been. She pushed through the revolving door with both arms full, a massive arrangement of lilies blocking her view. The lobby smelled like expensive perfume and fresh paint. Her sneakers squeaked against the polished floor. She was mentally mapping the fastest route to the ballroom when someone stepped directly into her path. The collision happened in slow motion. Lilies exploded outward. The vase tipped, and Lena's travel mug of coffee, still clutched in her right hand, launched forward like a missile. She heard the liquid hit fabric before she saw where it landed, right across the chest of a man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. The lobby went silent, not the normal quiet of a fancy hotel. This was the kind of silence that happens right before something terrible. Lena's heart stopped. The man stood completely still, coffee dripping down his shirt, his tie, pooling in the silk pocket square. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair and a face that could have been carved from stone. His eyes, gray, cold as January, locked onto hers. "I'm so sorry," Lena blurted. "I didn't see you. Let me get napkins. I can—" She reached for his jacket and he caught her wrist. Fast. His grip wasn't brutal, but it was absolute. Final. "Don't," he said. His voice was quiet. That made it worse somehow. Around them, people pretended not to stare. A woman in a hotel uniform appeared from nowhere, already gathering the scattered lilies with shaking hands. 2 men in dark suits materialized near the elevators, watching, just watching. Lena's throat went dry. "I'll pay for the cleaning, or replacement, whatever you need." The man tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a bug under glass. "Do you know who I am?" "No," Lena said honestly. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite amusement, not quite anger. Roman Viscari. The name meant nothing to her. She shook her head. His jaw tightened. "You ruined a $5,000 suit." Lena's stomach dropped straight through the floor. 5,000. She made that in 2 months. On a good 2 months. "I don't have that kind of money," she said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I know." He released her wrist and stepped back, coffee still dripping from his ruined clothes. The 2 men by the elevators moved closer, not threatening exactly, but present. Very present. "Sir," one of them said quietly, "we should go." Roman ignored him. His eyes never left Lena's face. "What's your name?" "Lena. Lena Marlowe." "Lena." He said it like he was testing the weight of it. "You owe me a debt." "I said I'd pay, not with money." He glanced at the hotel manager, who'd appeared from thin air, already apologizing in rapid, nervous bursts. Roman held up one hand and the manager went silent mid-sentence. "She's coming with me." The words didn't make sense. Lena blinked. "What?" "You'll work off what you owe at my estate. I have a job, I can't just—" "You don't anymore." He nodded toward the manager. I own this hotel, and based on the contract your shop has with us, I'd say your boss will be very understanding about your sudden career change. The floor tilted under Lena's feet. This wasn't real. This didn't happen in real life. People didn't just get kidnapped in hotel lobbies in broad daylight because of spilled coffee. You can't do this, she said. I can. His voice stayed level, calm, terrifyingly reasonable. You can come willingly, or my associate can carry you out. Either way, you're leaving with me. Your choice. Lena looked around wildly. The hotel staff had vanished. The few guests in the lobby were suddenly very interested in their phones. No one met her eyes. No one moved to help. The man who'd spoken earlier, tall, bald, built like a tank, stepped closer to her left side. Not touching, just there. Clock's ticking, Roman said. Lena's hands were shaking. Her mind raced through options that all ended the same way. With her in handcuffs, or worse if she screamed. With her boss losing the hotel contract if she ran. With her family getting dragged into whatever this was if she fought. She thought about her mom, working double shifts at the diner. Her little brother, barely 16, still in school. The last thing they needed was Lena causing the kind of trouble that brought men in expensive suits to their door. Willingly, she whispered. Roman's expression didn't change. Smart girl. Let's go. The car was black, sleek, the kind with tinted windows and leather seats that still had that new smell. Lena sat in the back, pressed against the far door, while Roman sat beside her and the bald man drove. A second car followed close behind. No one spoke. Lena stared out the window as the city fell away, replaced by suburbs, then countryside, then nothing but trees and the occasional estate hidden behind stone walls. Her phone buzzed twice, Carol probably wondering where the hell she was, but when she reached for it, Roman shook his head. Later, he said. She pulled her hand back. They drove for nearly an hour. Long enough that Lena's fear started mixing with exhaustion, her body finally catching up to what her brain already knew. She was completely, utterly screwed. The estate appeared suddenly, rising from the landscape like something out of a Gothic novel. Gray stone. Tall windows. Gardens that probably looked beautiful in summer, but right now, in early April, were mostly bare dirt and skeletal trees. A fountain sat silent in the circular driveway, dry and cracked. The car stopped. The driver got out first, opened Roman's door, then Lena's. She climbed out on legs that didn't quite feel solid. This way, Roman said. The front door was massive, dark wood, iron hinges. It swung open before they reached it, revealing a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a housekeeper's uniform. Her face was carefully neutral. Sir, she said, your sister's been asking for you. I'll see her after I'm changed. Nina, this is Lena. She'll be staying with us. Show her to the east wing. Nina's eyes flickered to Lena, one quick, assessing look, before she nodded. Of course. This way, miss. Roman was already walking away, his coffee-stained jacket left in the car, his footsteps echoing through the entrance hall. Lena started to follow Nina, then stopped. What am I supposed to do here? She called after him. Roman paused at the base of a wide staircase, turned halfway. Whatever I tell you to. Then he was gone. What? The room Nina showed her to was bigger than Lena's entire apartment. High ceilings, a four-poster bed. Windows overlooking the dead garden. It would have been beautiful if it wasn't a prison cell. Dinner's at 7, Nina said. Don't be late. Wait, Lena caught her arm gently. What is this place? Who is he? Nina's expression softened just slightly. Pity, maybe, or recognition. Mr. Vescari owns half the city. Restaurants, hotels, shipping companies, some legal, some less so. Best advice I can give you? Keep your head down, do what you're told, and don't ask questions. I didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't matter what you did. Matters what he thinks you did. Nina moved toward the door, then paused. There's clothes in the closet, bathrooms through there. You need anything else, pull that cord by the bed. Can I call my family? Let them know I'm okay? That's up to Mr. Vescari. The door closed with a soft click. A lock turned. Lena stood in the middle of the enormous room and felt her chest tighten. She'd been angry before, scared, definitely, but now, alone, the reality crashed over her like a wave. She was trapped, actually trapped. locked in a stranger's house in the middle of nowhere because she'd spilled coffee on the wrong man. She could cry. Part of her wanted to, but crying wouldn't unlock the door, wouldn't get her home. Instead, she walked to the window, looked down at the garden. It was worse up close, neglected, barren, everything brown and brittle. A few stubborn weeds pushed through the gravel paths. Nothing bloomed, nothing lived. Lena pressed her forehead against the cold glass. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Okay. Think." Dinner was served in a dining room built for 20 people. Lena sat at one end of a table long enough to land a plane on. Roman sat at the other end, already changed into a fresh suit, eating in complete silence. Two staff members stood against the walls, statues still. The food was incredible. Some kind of roasted chicken with herbs Lena couldn't name, vegetables that tasted like they'd been grown by someone who actually gave a damn. She ate because she was starving, but every bite felt like swallowing stones. Halfway through the meal, a girl appeared in the doorway. She was maybe 8 or 9, all dark curls and big brown eyes, and a yellow dress that looked expensive but wrinkled, like she'd been playing in it all day. She looked at Roman, then at Lena, then back at Roman. "Can I eat with you?" she asked. "It's late, Ivy," Roman said without looking up. "Please?" Something in his jaw tightened. "Fine, sit." The girl, Ivy, beamed and scrambled into the chair closest to Lena, completely ignoring the 15 empty seats between her and Roman. Up close, Lena could see traces of him in her face. The same dark hair, the same stubborn set to her mouth. "Hi," Ivy said. "I'm Ivy. Who are you?" "Lena." "Are you here to work for Roman?" Lena glanced down the table. Roman was watching now, his fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Something like that," Lena said carefully. "What kind of work?" "Ivy," Roman said. "Eat your dinner." "I'm just asking. Eat!" Ivy's face fell, but she picked up her fork. For a few minutes, the only sound was silverware against china. Then Ivy whispered, "Do you like flowers?" Lena blinked. "Yeah, I do." "Me too, but nothing grows here anymore." Ivy pushed a carrot around her plate. "Roman says it's because the soil's bad." Lena looked out the window at the darkening garden. "That's not how soil works." "It's not?" "Nope. Soil's like people. It needs care, needs something living in it to stay healthy." Ivy's eyes went wide. "Really? Really? Could you make things grow here?" Before Lena could answer, Roman stood abruptly. His chair scraped against the floor. "Ivy, bed, now." "But I'm not done. Now." The girl's face crumpled, but she slid off her chair without another word. She walked past Roman with her head down, and Lena saw him reach out, just for a second, like he might touch her shoulder. But his hand dropped before it made contact. When Ivy was gone, Roman turned to Lena. "Don't fill her head with nonsense. It's not nonsense, it's botany. It's false hope." He walked closer, each step deliberate. "Nothing grows here. Not anymore. The faster you accept that, the easier this will be." Lena stood up. She was still a good 6 inches shorter than him, but she refused to sit while he loomed. "Why am I really here?" "I told you." "No. You said I owe you a debt, but you didn't actually say what I'm supposed to do to pay it off." "So what is it? Cleaning? Cooking? What?" Roman stared at her for a long moment. In the dim light of the dining room, his face looked harder, older. "You're here because I decided you'd be here. That's all you need to know." "That's insane." "Maybe." He started walking toward the door, then stopped, looked back. "You'll stay in that room. Meals will be brought to you until I decide otherwise. Try to leave the estate and you'll regret it. Understand?" Lena's hands clenched into fists. "You can't keep me here forever." Something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Something colder. Lonelier. "Watch me." Ben. 3 days passed. Lena spent them locked in her room, pacing like a caged animal. Meals appeared 3 times a day, delivered by Nina or sometimes a younger girl named Sarah who wouldn't meet Lena's eyes. No one spoke to her. No one answered her questions. Her phone had been confiscated the first night. On the 4th day, Lena stopped asking permission. She waited until she heard footsteps fade down the hallway after breakfast, then tried the door. Still locked. But the window opened easily, and there was a trellis, old, questionable, but climbable, running down the side of the building. Lena had grown up scrambling over fences and climbing trees in her neighborhood. This was basically the same thing. She made it to the ground without breaking anything, brushed dirt off her jeans, and walked straight into the garden. It was worse up close. Months, maybe years, of neglect. Flower beds choked with dead stalks. Paths cracked and uneven. A greenhouse in the far corner with half its windows broken. But underneath all that death, Lena could see the bones of something beautiful. Someone had loved this place once, planned it, cared for it. She knelt in one of the beds and dug her fingers into the soil, dry, compacted, but not dead, not entirely. You weren't supposed to leave your room. Lena didn't jump. She'd heard his footsteps on the gravel. She looked over her shoulder at Roman, who stood 10 feet away with his hands in his pockets, watching her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Your trellis has a broken slat," she said. "Third one from the top. Someone's going to fall." "Answer the question." "I got bored." She stood, wiping her hands on her jeans. "You locked me in a room for 3 days. What did you expect?" "Obedience." Lena laughed. Actually laughed. It surprised both of them. "Yeah, well, disappointment builds character." Roman's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. He stepped closer, looking down at the dirt under her fingernails, the smudge of soil on her cheek. "What are you doing out here?" "Looking at your garden. Or what used to be a garden." "It's dead." "It's dormant. There's a difference." "Is there?" Lena met his eyes. Up close she could see they weren't just gray. There were flecks of blue in them, tired lines at the corners. "You give up on everything this easily?" His jaw tightened. For a second, she thought he might actually get angry, really angry. But instead he said, "What would it take to fix it?" "Time, work, soil amendments, seeds, someone who gives a damn." "How much time?" "Depends. A few weeks to see anything bloom, months to really bring it back." Roman was quiet for a long moment, looking past her at the dead garden, at the broken greenhouse, at the fountain that hadn't run in who knows how long. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, quieter, almost like he was talking to himself. "My mother planted this," he said, "when I was 10. Every spring, she'd be out here before sunrise. Ivy loved helping her. Loved. Past tense. Lena didn't ask, didn't push. "I'll make you a deal," Roman said. "You fix the garden. Make it like it was. Do that, and your debt's paid. You can leave." Lena's heart jumped. "Seriously? I don't say things I don't mean. How long do I have?" "As long as it takes." It was a trap, had to be, but it was also a chance, the only one she was likely to get. And honestly, working in the dirt, bringing something back to life, that was better than rotting in that beautiful prison of a room. "Deal," she said. Roman nodded once, then started walking away, paused, looked back. "Lena." "Yeah?" "Stay away from Ivy. She doesn't need to get attached to someone who won't be here long." Then he was gone. Lena threw herself into the garden like a drowning person grabbing a rope. She started with the soil, turning it, breaking up the compacted layers, mixing in compost that Nina helped her find in a shed behind the greenhouse. Every morning she was out there by 6, working until her back screamed and her hands were raw. Every evening she collapsed into bed too tired to think about home, about her family, about how long this might actually take. Nina started bringing her lunch outside. Then Sarah did too, sitting on the edge of the fountain and watching quietly while Lena worked. Roman never came to the garden, but she saw him sometimes, watching from the upper windows, always just standing there, always alone. Ivy was harder to avoid. The girl appeared on the 5th day, darting out of the house while Nina was distracted, and planted herself right in the middle of the bed Lena was weeding. "Can I help?" she asked. "Your brother said—" "Roman's not my brother. He's my guardian." Ivy picked up a small spade and started digging with absolutely no technique whatsoever. "Our mom died when I was 4. Roman takes care of me now." Lena's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." "It's okay. I don't remember her much." Ivy kept digging, her face scrunched in concentration. "But I remember the garden. She used to let me pick flowers every Sunday. For the table." "What kind?" Sunflowers, and those little white ones. I forget the name. Daisies? No, the ones that smell really good. Lilies? Ivy's face lit up. Yes, those. Of course, the same flowers Lena had been carrying when this whole nightmare started. The universe had a sick sense of humor. We can plant those, Lena said quietly, if you want. Really? Really? But you'll have to help. And you can't tell Roman. Ivy grinned and held out her pinky. Deal. They shook on it. 2 weeks in, the garden started changing. Not dramatically, not like some time-lapse video where everything blooms overnight. But there were signs. Green shoots pushing through the turned soil, Ivy's sunflower seeds sprouting near the greenhouse, the beds starting to take shape again, neat and purposeful instead of chaotic. Lena worked harder, longer. Part of it was the deal with Roman, the promise of freedom if she succeeded. But part of it, the part she didn't want to examine too closely, was simpler than that. She liked it here. Not the being trapped part, not the constant undercurrent of danger that came with living in a crime boss's house, but the garden itself. The quiet mornings. The way Nina had started smiling at her just a little. The way Ivy chattered endlessly about school and friends and the book she was reading, like Lena was a real person instead of a prisoner. Even the house felt different, less like a mausoleum, more like something that might, with enough time and care, become warm again. She was planting the white lilies, the ones Ivy remembered, when she heard footsteps on the path behind her. Not Nina's practical shoes, not Ivy's light skip. Heavier, slower. Lena didn't turn around. If you're here to tell me I'm doing it wrong, save your breath. I wasn't going to say that, Roman said. She looked over her shoulder. He was in shirt sleeves for once, no jacket, his tie loosened. He looked tired. Actually tired. Not just the carefully controlled exhaustion he usually wore like armor. You've been watching, Lena said. Not a question. It's my garden. It's your mother's garden. Something in his face closed off. Was. Lena stood, brushing dirt from her knees. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange, softening the hard edges of the estate. Why'd you let it die? I didn't let it do anything. I just stopped trying to save it. Why? Because some things can't be saved. He looked past her at the neat rows of planted bulbs, at Ivy's sunflowers already a foot tall. No matter how hard you work, Lena stepped closer. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But something about the way he stood there, shoulders tight, hands in his pockets, looking at the garden like it hurt to see it coming back to life, made her brave. You know what I think? She said. I'm sure you'll tell me. I think you're scared. His eyes snapped to hers. Of what? Of caring about something again. Because if you care, it can be taken away. She nodded toward the house. Like your mother. Like whatever made you so convinced nothing good can last. You don't know anything about me. Maybe not, but I know gardens, and I know that soil doesn't just die on its own. It dies when someone decides it's easier to let it go than to fight for it. Roman stared at her. Really stared, like he was seeing her for the first time. Not the girl who'd spilled coffee on him, not the debt he was collecting, just Lena. You should go inside, sus, he said finally. It's getting cold. But he didn't move. Neither did she. The moment stretched between them, fragile and strange, until Ivy's voice called from the house. Lena, come look at my drawing, and broke the spell. Lena stepped back. Good night, Roman. She walked toward the house, feeling his eyes on her back the whole way. When she reached the door, she glanced over her shoulder. He was still standing there, surrounded by half-dead flower beds and the promise of something new, looking more lost than any crime boss had a right to look. And for the first time since she'd been brought here, Lena wondered if maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only prisoner in this house. 3 weeks became 4. 4 became 5. The garden didn't transform overnight, but it transformed. The sunflowers Ivy had planted shot up like they were racing each other toward the sky. The lily bulbs sent up green shoots that thickened daily. Even the wild strawberry plants Lena had tucked along the greenhouse wall started spreading runners across the soil, claiming territory. Lena worked until her shoulders ached and her knees protested every morning when she stood. She stopped thinking about the debt, stopped counting days. The garden became its own reason, its own reward. She'd wake before dawn and lie there in the too big bed, already planning which section to tackle next, which plants needed dividing, where the light fell best for the roses she'd found buried under a tangle of dead vines. Nina started joining her for morning coffee, sitting on the stone bench near the fountain while Lena worked. They didn't talk much, but the silence felt comfortable, lived in. "You're good at this," Nina said one morning, watching Lena stake tomato plants she'd started from seeds in the greenhouse. "My mom had a garden, tiny thing, barely 6 feet square, but she grew everything, tomatoes, peppers, herbs." Lena tied off another stake. "She used to say soil remembers. You treat it right, it gives back." "Your mother sounds wise." "She was. I don't know." Lena sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I haven't been able to call her, tell her I'm okay." Nina's face softened with something like pity. "Mr. Vescari has his reasons." "Yeah, well, his reasons don't make it easier." "No," Nina agreed quietly. "They don't." That afternoon, Lena's phone appeared on her nightstand. No explanation, no note. Just the phone, fully charged, with a single text from an unknown number. One call, 10 minutes. Lena's hands shook as she dialed her mother's number. "Baby?" Her mom's voice cracked. "Baby, where are you? Carol said you quit, but you didn't call, and I've been so—" "I'm okay, Mama. I'm safe." "Where are you?" Lena looked out the window at the garden, at the estate stretching into the distance. "I can't really explain right now, but I'm working. I'm fine. How's Marcus?" "He's worried sick about you. We both are." "Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'll be home soon." Lena hoped that was true. "I love you both." Lena... The call cut off. Exactly 10 minutes. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the phone, and let herself cry for the first time since she'd arrived. Not panicked tears, not angry ones. Just the kind that came from missing home and not knowing when you'd see it again. When she finally went downstairs for dinner, Roman was waiting in the hallway. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For the call." He nodded once, his face unreadable. "Don't make me regret it." But his voice didn't sound cold, just tired. The garden kept growing. So did the tension between them. Roman started appearing more often. Not working, not helping, just watching. He'd stand at the edge of the path with his hands in his pockets while Lena planted or weeded or trained climbing roses up the greenhouse wall. Sometimes he asked questions. Technical ones, mostly. Why she was spacing plants a certain way. What the compost was for. Whether the fountain could be repaired. "Probably," Lena said, studying the cracked basin. "Needs new plumbing, new stone for the coping. But yeah, it could run again. And if it did? The sound would be nice, calming, plus moving water attracts birds." Roman looked at the silent fountain for a long moment. "I'll have someone look at it." 2 days later, a crew showed up and spent an afternoon taking the fountain apart, replacing pipes, resealing the basin. By evening, it was running again, water trickling over the stone edges in a constant whisper. Ivy shrieked with delight and threw a penny in, making a wish she wouldn't tell anyone. Lena caught Roman watching from the window. When their eyes met, he didn't look away. Just stood there, backlit by the setting sun, expressionless. She couldn't read him. That was the problem. One minute he was the cold, controlled man who dragged her here against her will. The next he was fixing fountains and allowing phone calls and standing in the garden at dusk like he was trying to remember something he'd lost. "He likes you," Ivy announced one afternoon while they were planting marigolds along the garden path. Lena nearly dropped her trowel. "What?" "Roman, he likes you. He tolerates me. There's a difference." "Nope." Ivy dug another hole with absolute confidence. "He watches you all the time, and he smiles sometimes when you're not looking." "Your brother doesn't smile." "He's not my brother. And yes, he does, just not at people. Only at things." Ivy patted soil around a marigold seedling. "Like when I got an A on my science test, or when the fountain started working again." He smiled then. Lena sat back, processing this. "Ivy, why doesn't he come out here, to the garden? Not to watch, but to actually be here." Ivy's face went serious. Too serious for a 9-year-old. "Because Mom's buried here." The words hit like a slap. Lena looked around the garden with new eyes, searching for a marker, a stone, anything. "Not like under the ground," Ivy clarified quickly, "but her ashes. Roman spread them here after she died, all through the flower beds, so she'd always be part of it, he said. Her small fingers traced patterns in the dirt. I think it makes him sad, being here, remembering. I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's okay. It was a long time ago. Ivy went back to planting, but her hands moved slower. Sometimes I wish he'd be sad out loud instead of just being angry all the time. He's not angry at you. I know. He's angry at everything else. Lena wanted to argue, but she couldn't because Ivy was right. Roman moved through the world like he was fighting an invisible war with everyone and everything around him. Even the garden seemed to make him tense, like beauty itself was a threat. That night at dinner, they ate together now, at least when Roman wasn't working late. Lena watched him across the table, really watched. The way his shoulders stayed rigid even when he was sitting, the way he cut his food with precise, controlled movements, the way he looked at Ivy with something fierce and protective and utterly exhausted. You're staring, he said without looking up. You're interesting. That made him pause, fork halfway to his mouth. Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to figure you out. Don't. Why not? Because there's nothing to figure out. He set down his fork, finally meeting her eyes. I'm exactly what I look like. A terrifying crime boss who kidnaps florists and fixes fountains? Ivy giggled. Roman's jaw tightened. Go to your room, Ivy. But I'm not done. Now. The girl's face fell, but she slid off her chair without protest. She was used to this, used to being dismissed when conversations got too real. Lena's chest tightened, watching her go. When they were alone, Roman stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening garden. Lena could see his reflection in the glass. Tired. Always so tired. You don't scare me anymore, she said. Maybe you're not as smart as I thought. Or maybe I just see things differently now. Lena pushed her plate away, stood up, walked closer. Not too close, but close enough. You want everyone to think you're this cold, untouchable thing, but you're not. You care too much. About Ivy, about this house, even about the garden, whether you admit it or not. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me I'm wrong. She waited. He said nothing. That's what I thought. Roman turned from the window and suddenly the space between them felt smaller, charged. His eyes searched her face like he was looking for something specific and couldn't find it. Why aren't you afraid of me? He asked quietly. I was, at first. Lena's heart hammered, but she held her ground. But fear gets boring. And you're a lot of things, Roman Viscari, but boring isn't one of them. For just a second, barely a breath, something cracked in his carefully controlled expression. Something raw and human and almost hopeful. Then it was gone, locked away again behind walls she was just starting to understand he'd built to survive. The garden looks good, he said finally. You're doing well. It wasn't what she wanted to hear, but it was something. The next morning, Lana woke to find a box outside her door. Inside were professional gardening tools. Real ones, not the half-rusted things she'd been making do with. Pruning shears, a Japanese weeding knife, leather gloves that actually fit. A note in sharp, angular handwriting. Use these. She smiled despite herself. The days fell into a rhythm. Lena worked. Ivy helped after school. Nina brought lunch and stayed to chat. Sarah, the younger housekeeper, started asking questions about plants, about what things meant. Did Lena know that lavender was for devotion? That forget-me-nots meant remembrance? Who told you that? Lena asked. Mrs. Vescari, Roman's mother. She used to talk about it all the time. The language of flowers, she called it. Sarah touched a rosebud gently. She said every garden tells a story if you know how to read it. Lena looked around at the beds taking shape, at the colors starting to emerge. What story was this garden telling? What story was she helping it tell? That evening, she found Roman in his office. The door was open, unusual, and he was sitting at his desk surrounded by papers, rubbing his temples like his head hurt. Can I help? She asked from the doorway. Unless you're secretly an accountant, no. What's wrong? He looked up, clearly debating whether to answer. Finally, a business deal went bad. People who owe me money think they can avoid paying. What kind of business? The kind you don't want to know about. Lena stepped into the room. She'd never been in here before. It smelled like leather and old books and something sharp. Whiskey, maybe. The walls were lined with shelves, and in the corner stood a cabinet with glass doors displaying things that definitely weren't books. A knife, a gun, other objects she couldn't identify and didn't want to. "Does it ever bother you?" she asked. "Does what bother me?" "The things you do, the person you have to be." Roman leaned back in his chair, studying her with that unreadable expression. "You really don't know when to stop, do you?" "Not really, no." He almost smiled. Almost. "It bothered me once, a long time ago. Now it's just what I am." "That's sad." "It's practical. It's lonely." That landed. She saw it in the way his shoulders tensed, in the flicker of something painful behind his eyes. "You should go," he said. "It's late." But Lena didn't move. "When I was 16, my dad left. Just got up one morning and walked out. Didn't leave a note. Didn't call. My mom cried for 3 days straight, then got up and went to work like nothing happened. And I hated him for that, for making her pretend everything was fine when it wasn't." Roman waited. "But you know what I hated more? That part of me understood. Because sometimes pretending you're okay is the only way to survive long enough to actually become okay." She met his eyes. "I think you've been pretending for a really long time." The silence stretched between them. Outside, night sounds filtered through the window. Crickets, a breeze moving through leaves. "You should hate me," Roman said finally, "for bringing you here, for keeping you." "Yeah, probably. But you don't." "No," Lena admitted. "I don't." "Why not?" She thought about that, really thought. "Because I think you're trying. In your own messed up way, you're trying to be something other than what the world made you, and I guess I respect that." Roman stood abruptly, walked to the window. His reflection showed a man at war with himself. "The deal I made with you. About the garden." Lena's stomach dropped. "What about it?" "When it's done, when the garden's finished, you'll leave." "That was the agreement." "I know." He turned to face her. "But I need you to understand something. The things I'm involved in, the people I deal with, they don't care about honor. They don't care about deals. If they find out you matter to someone like me, you become a target, you and anyone you care about. I don't matter to you. Don't you?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy and dangerous and impossibly complicated. Lena's heart hammered so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Roman, finish the garden," he said quietly. "Go home. Forget this place. Forget me. It's safer that way." Then he walked past her, out of his own office, leaving her standing there alone. The garden bloomed, not all at once, but steadily, inevitably. The sunflowers Ivy had planted stretched toward the sky, their faces bright and bold. The white lilies opened in clusters, their scent heavy and sweet on the evening air. Roses climbed the greenhouse walls in tangles of pink and cream and deep red. Lena worked harder, faster. Like if she could just finish this, just complete what she'd started, everything else would make sense. But every time she thought about leaving, about going home, something in her chest twisted painfully. "It's beautiful," Nina said one morning, standing in the center of the garden with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Vescari would be so proud." "I hope so." "She would be." Nina touched a lily gently. "She'd be proud of you too, for bringing it back." Lena wanted to ask what she meant, but Nina was already walking away, dabbing at her eyes with the corner of her apron. That afternoon, Lena found Ivy crying behind the greenhouse. "Hey, what's wrong?" She knelt down, putting a hand on the girl's shaking shoulder. "Roman said you're leaving soon." Ivy's voice came out choked and small. "He said once the garden's done, you're going home." Lena's throat went tight. "That was always the plan, sweetheart." "But I don't want you to go. You're the first person who's been nice to me since—" She broke off, sobbing harder. "Everyone else just works here. They're paid to be here. But you're here because you want to be." "Oh, Ivy." Lena pulled her into a hug. The girl clung to her like a lifeline. "That's not true. Nina cares about you. Sarah does too. And Roman's always working, always busy. He barely talks to me anymore. He's trying to keep you safe. That's different than not caring." "It doesn't feel different." Ivy pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeve. "It feels the same as being alone." Lena understood that, more than she wanted to admit. That night, she cornered Roman in the hallway outside his room. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. About Ivy." That stopped him. "What about her?" "She thinks you don't care about her, that you're too busy for her." Roman's face went carefully blank. "She has everything she needs. Except you." Lena stepped closer. "When's the last time you ate dinner with her? Really ate with her? Not just sat at the opposite end of a table in silence?" "I'm protecting her. You're hiding from her. There's a difference." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, voice low and rough, "Every time I look at her, I see our mother. And every time I see our mother, I remember that I failed to protect her, failed to save her. So yes, I keep my distance. Because maybe if I don't get too close, I won't fail Ivy the same way." The confession hit Lena like a punch. She'd expected anger, expected deflection, not this raw, bleeding honesty. "Roman," she said softly, "you were a kid when your mother died." "I was 17, old enough." "Old enough for what? To stop cancer? To fight death itself?" She shook her head. "You can't protect people by pushing them away. All that does is guarantee you'll lose them. Better to lose them on my terms than watch them get hurt because of me. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works." Lena reached out, then stopped herself. Touching him felt dangerous, like crossing a line they couldn't uncross. "Ivy needs you, not your money, or your protection, or your perfectly maintained house. She needs you to show up, to be present, to stop treating her like she's something fragile that might break." Roman stared at her, really stared, like he was seeing through her to something deeper. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it's like to be the kid whose parent disappears. And because despite everything, despite how we started, despite how messed up this all is, I care about her. And I care about you, you stubborn, self-destructive—" She didn't finish. Couldn't. Because Roman had moved closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion etched into every line of his face, the way his hands were clenched at his sides like he was physically restraining himself. "You shouldn't," he said roughly, "care about me." "Yeah, well, little late for that." Something broke in his expression, some last defense crumbling. He reached up, slowly, and touched her face. Just his fingertips against her cheek, feather light and hesitant, like he'd forgotten how to be gentle and was trying to remember. "Lena." Whatever he was going to say got interrupted by footsteps on the stairs. They sprang apart as Nina appeared, her face tight with worry. "Mr. Vescari, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a phone call. They said it's urgent." Roman's expression shuddered immediately. Back to stone. Back to the man everyone feared. "I'll take it in my office." He was gone before Lena could say anything else. The next morning, the estate was different. Wrong. Men Lena had never seen before appeared in the hallways, standing guard. The gates stayed closed. Even Nina seemed nervous, jumping at sounds. "What's going on?" Lena asked. "Nothing you need to worry about. Just stay inside today." "Nina, please, Lena, just do as I ask." But Lena had never been good at following rules. She waited until afternoon, then slipped out to the garden. It felt safer there, quieter. The flowers didn't care about whatever danger had everyone else on edge. She was deadheading roses when she heard voices. Sharp, angry voices coming from somewhere behind the greenhouse. "Told you this was handled." That was Roman. Lena had never heard him sound like that. Furious, barely controlled. "Plans changed." A second voice, unfamiliar, cold. "Marchetti wants his money by Friday, or he starts taking things you care about. You know how this works." "Tell Marchetti he'll get his money when I'm ready to give it to him." "That's not how this works anymore, Viscari. You've been soft lately. People are noticing." "I don't care what people notice." "You should, because they're talking about the girl, the one living in your house. Word is you've gotten attached." Lena's blood went cold. "She's no one," Roman said flatly. "An employee. Nothing more." "Really? Then you won't mind if we verify that?" "Touch her and I'll burn everything you own to the ground." Silence. Then a low, ugly laugh. "There it is. The great Roman Vescari brought to his knees by a florist. This is going to be fun." Lena heard footsteps. She pressed herself flat against the greenhouse wall, heart hammering. Two men walked past, close enough that she could have reached out and touched them. They didn't see her, too busy laughing about something that clearly wasn't funny. When they were gone, she waited another minute, then peered around the corner. Roman stood alone near the back wall, his head bowed, his hands clenched into fists. She should stay hidden, should pretend she hadn't heard anything. Instead, she walked toward him. He heard her coming, turned. His face went from shock to fury in an instant. "What are you doing out here? I told everyone." "I heard," Lena interrupted. "I heard what they said." Roman's expression went carefully blank. "Then you know you need to leave, soon, before this gets worse." "What happens on Friday?" "Nothing that concerns you." "Roman, if I'm the reason—" "You're not." He stepped closer, and there was something desperate in his eyes now, something afraid. "You were never the reason. This has been building for months. You're just—" He stopped himself. "Just what?" "An excuse. A weakness they can exploit." His hand came up like he might touch her face again, then dropped. "I can't protect you if you stay. Don't you understand that? Every day you're here puts you at risk. So send me home." "I'm trying to. Are you?" Lena held his gaze. "Because it feels like you keep finding reasons to make me stay." The truth sat between them like a live wire. "The garden's almost finished," Roman said finally. "Another week, maybe 2. Then you go. That's final." He walked away before she could argue. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed listening to the house settle around her, thinking about men with cold voices and Roman's face when he'd said she was a weakness. Thinking about Ivy, who'd already lost so much. About Nina and Sarah and everyone else who'd carved out lives in this strange, dangerous place. Around midnight, she heard it. A crash. Raised voices. Then silence. Lena got up, pulled on a robe, and crept into the hallway. The house was dark except for a light coming from the first floor. She took the stairs carefully, following the sound of someone moving around in Roman's office. The door was ajar. She pushed it open. Roman sat at his desk, a bottle of whiskey in front of him, his shirt unbuttoned, tie discarded, blood on his knuckles. He looked up when she entered, and for a second she saw the mask slip completely, saw the man underneath, exhausted and afraid, and so achingly human. "You should be asleep," he said. "So should you." Lena came closer, eyeing the bottle. "How much have you had?" "Not enough." She reached for the bottle. He didn't stop her. She set it aside, then looked at his hands. "What happened?" "I had a disagreement with someone's face." "Did you win?" "No one wins. That's the secret they don't tell you." He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. "You just survive long enough to fight again tomorrow." Lena pulled up a chair, sat across from him. They stayed like that for a while, not speaking, just existing in the same space. Finally, Roman opened his eyes. "You should be running." "Where?" "As far from me as possible." "Too late?" She said it simply, truthfully. "I'm already here." He looked at her like she was the most confusing thing he'd ever encountered. "Why?" "Because someone has to remind you that you're more than this. More than blood on your knuckles and deals gone bad, and people you have to fight just to survive." She reached across the desk, took his damaged hand in both of hers, gently. "You're also the man who fixed a fountain for a little girl, who bought proper garden tools, who pretends not to care but can't quite pull it off." Roman's fingers curled around hers. "Lena, I see you," she said quietly. "I see who you are under all of this, and I'm not afraid." "You should be." "I know." She smiled, just a little. "But I've never been great at doing what I should." For a long moment they sat there in the quiet office, hands joined across the desk, while outside the garden grew wild and beautiful in the darkness. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Roman Vescari didn't feel quite so alone. Morning came too soon and brought rain with it. Lena woke to the sound of water against windows, the sky gray and heavy. She'd fallen asleep in the chair in Roman's office sometime around 3, and when she'd opened her eyes at dawn, he was gone. Just a blanket draped over her shoulders that hadn't been there before, and the whiskey bottle put away. She folded the blanket carefully and went upstairs to change. Her reflection in the mirror looked tired, older somehow. Like the last few weeks had carved something permanent into her face. The garden would be mud today. No point working in this weather. But the thought of staying inside, trapped in the house with whatever tension was building between Roman and the men who'd threatened him, made her skin crawl. She found Ivy in the library, curled up in a window seat with a book she clearly wasn't reading. "Hey, Bug," Lena said softly. Ivy looked up. Her eyes were red. "Did something bad happen?" "What makes you ask that?" "The new guards. Roman locking himself in his office all night. Nina crying in the kitchen this morning." Ivy set down her book. "I'm not stupid, Lena. I know when things are wrong." Lena sat beside her, pulling the girl close. "Things are complicated right now, but Roman's handling it." "Is it because of you?" The question stabbed straight through Lena's chest. "Why would you think that?" "Because you came here and everything changed. Roman changed. He smiles sometimes now. He fixed the fountain. He actually talks at dinner." Ivy's voice cracked. "But now there's guards everywhere, and he won't look at you, and I heard him yelling on the phone about keeping people safe." "Oh, sweetheart." Lena smoothed Ivy's hair back from her face. "Whatever's happening, it's not your fault. And it's not really mine either. It's just sometimes the world Roman lives in doesn't let good things stay good for very long." "That's not fair." "No, it's not." They sat together while rain hammered the windows, and Lena wondered how you explained to a 9-year-old that sometimes the people who loved you had to hurt you to keep you safe. That distance could be a kind of protection. That pushing someone away sometimes meant you cared too much to risk them getting hurt. She was still trying to find the words when Roman appeared in the doorway. "Ivy, go to your room," he said. "But now." The girl's face crumpled, but she grabbed her book and ran past him without another word. Lena heard her footsteps racing up the stairs. Heard a door slam. "You didn't have to be cruel," Lena said quietly. "Yes, I did." Roman stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. He looked like he hadn't slept, like he'd spent the night at war with himself and lost. "I need to talk to you." "So talk." He paced to the window, stared out at the rain-soaked garden. "The situation with Marchetti is worse than I thought. He's not just demanding money anymore. He wants control. Wants me to step aside, let him take over operations I've spent years building. And if you don't, he'll make examples, go after people close to me." Roman turned and his eyes were hollow. "He already knows about you, about Ivy, about everyone in this house." Lena's blood went cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I made a mistake bringing you here, keeping you here, and now I have to fix it before someone gets hurt because of me." "How?" "You're leaving, today. Nina's packing your things." Lena stood up fast enough to make her head spin. "You're sending me away." "I'm keeping you alive." "What about the garden, the deal we made?" "Consider your debt paid." Roman's voice stayed flat, controlled, but his hands were clenched tight at his sides. "I'll have Marcus drive you back to the city, back to your mother, your brother, back to normal." "And what about you?" "I'll handle Marchetti." "How?" "That's not your concern anymore." Lena crossed the space between them in 3 strides, got right in his face. "Don't do this. Don't shut me out and pretend it's for my own good." "It is for your own good." "No, it's because you're scared. Because for the first time in years, you actually care about something other than survival, and it terrifies you." Roman's jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, I do. I know exactly what I'm talking about." She grabbed his arm, forced him to look at her. "You think pushing everyone away keeps them safe, but all it does is guarantee you'll be alone when things fall apart. Is that what you want? To end up like this house was when I got here? Dead and empty and nothing growing? Better empty than destroyed." "You're already destroying it," Lena's voice cracked. "Can't you see that? Every time you lock yourself away, every time you send Ivy to her room, every time you decide for other people what they can handle, you're killing the good things piece by piece. I'm protecting you." "I don't want your protection. I want—" She stopped, breathing hard. "What?" Roman stepped closer, his face inches from hers. "What do you want?" The truth sat on Lena's tongue, dangerous and impossible. She wanted him to fight for something other than survival. Wanted him to believe that things could be different, better, that the garden blooming outside wasn't just an accident, but proof that dead things could come back to life if someone cared enough to try. She wanted him. The realization hit like lightning, sudden and undeniable. Somewhere between the coffee-stained suit and the fixed fountain, between midnight conversations and bruised knuckles, between watching him try so hard to be something he wasn't, she'd fallen for the most unavailable man she could possibly have chosen. "Lena," Roman said softly, dangerously. "What do you want?" "Nothing you can give me," she whispered. His hand came up, cupped her face. Rough fingers, gentle touch. "Try me." For a long moment they stood frozen, the air between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Rain beat against the windows. Somewhere upstairs, Ivy was crying. The whole world was falling apart, and nothing about this made sense. But when Roman leaned in, when his forehead touched hers, Lena didn't pull away. "If you stay," he said roughly, "I can't promise you'll be safe." "I'm not asking for promises." "You should be." "When have I ever done what I should?" His laugh was broken, barely a sound. "Never. So stop trying to make me start now." Roman pulled back just enough to look at her. Really look, like he was memorizing every detail. "You're the most stubborn, infuriating person I've ever met." "Good. You need someone who doesn't scare easy." "I need you to be smart about this." Too late. Lena's hand found his chest, felt his heart hammering beneath her palm. "I'm already in too deep to back out now." The distance between them disappeared. His mouth found hers like he was starving, like she was air and he'd been drowning. Lena grabbed his shirt, pulled him closer, and let herself fall into the kiss. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. It was weeks of tension breaking open, of walls crumbling, of two people who'd been fighting gravity finally giving in. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Roman pressed his forehead to hers again. "This is a mistake," he said. "Probably. You should go, while you still can." "Are you going to make me?" He closed his eyes. "No." "Then I'm staying." A knock on the door made them spring apart. Nina's voice came through, tight with worry. "Mr. Vescari, there's a situation. The South Gate." Roman's expression went cold instantly, back to stone. "I'm coming." He looked at Lena one more time, something fierce and protective in his eyes, then walked out. She stood alone in the library, her lips still burning from the kiss, her heart racing, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. The situation at the South Gate turned out to be 3 cars full of Marchetti's men, parked just outside the property line. Not doing anything, not threatening anyone, just sitting there, watching. Roman handled it by stationing his own men at the gate, then retreating to his office with Marcus and 2 others Lena didn't recognize. They stayed locked in there for hours. Raised voices filtered through the door. At one point, something shattered. Ivy stayed in her room. Nina moved through the house like a ghost, cooking dinner no one would eat. Sarah kept glancing at the windows, at the cars visible in the distance, her hands shaking whenever she picked up a dish. Lena went to the garden. The rain had stopped, but everything was soaked, heavy with water. The flowers bent low under the weight. She walked the path slowly, checking for damage, tying up plants that had come loose from their stakes. Ordinary work. Grounding. She was restaking a tomato plant when she heard footsteps behind her. Not Roman's heavy stride. These were lighter, uncertain. Lena turned to find Marcus, the bald man who'd driven her here that first day, standing at the edge of the garden. He looked uncomfortable, out of place among the flowers. "He's trying to protect you, you know," Marcus said. "That's why he wants you gone." "I know. So why are you fighting him on it?" Lena set down the stake, wiped mud from her hands. "Because running doesn't fix anything. It just means Marchetti wins. Marchetti's going to win anyway. That's how this works. Roman's outnumbered, outgunned. Only reason we've lasted this long is because people respect him. Fear him. But that respect's built on him being untouchable, cold. And lately," Marcus shook his head, "he's not that anymore. People see it." "Good. You don't understand. In Roman's world, being human is a weakness. Caring about people makes you a target. Then maybe his world needs to change." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really believe that? That one person can change everything?" "I have to." Lena looked at the garden stretching around them, at all the life pushing up through dead soil. "Otherwise, what's the point?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "He told me once that his mother used to say the same thing, that one person, one small act, could shift everything." He gestured at the garden. She'd be proud of what you've done here. I didn't do it for her. No, you did it for him. Marcus turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you're right. I hope one person can change things, because if anyone's going to save Roman from himself, it's probably you. He walked away, leaving Lena standing in the mud, wondering if saving someone who didn't want to be saved was even possible. That night, Roman didn't come to dinner, didn't come out of his office at all. Lena ate with Ivy in the kitchen, Nina's idea, to keep things normal for the girl, and tried not to watch the clock, tried not to think about the kiss in the library, about the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and breakable. After Ivy went to bed, Lena wandered the house. She ended up in the hallway outside Roman's office, her hand raised to knock, when she heard his voice through the door. I don't care what it costs. Get her out of the city entirely, somewhere Marchetti can't reach. A pause. Then, yes, Lena, and Ivy, both of them. Tonight if possible. Lena's hand dropped. Her chest went tight. She should have known, should have expected this. But somehow hearing him plan to ship her off like cargo still felt like a punch to the gut. She was turning to leave when the door opened. Roman stood there, phone still in hand, and the look on his face when he saw her told her he knew she'd heard everything. It's not what you think, he said. Really? Because it sounds like you're planning to get rid of me behind my back. I'm trying to keep you safe. By lying to me? Lena pushed past him into the office. We just talked about this hours ago. You said you wouldn't make me leave. I said I wouldn't force you. I didn't say I wouldn't try to convince you. With deception? That's your strategy? Roman closed the door, ran a hand through his hair. He looked wrecked, exhausted in a way that went bone deep. I'm out of options, Lena. Marchetti's not bluffing. He sent photos today of your mother's diner, your brother's school. He knows where they are. The room tilted. What? He's making it clear if I don't cooperate, he goes after the people I care about. That includes you. That includes your family. Lena sat down hard in the nearest chair. You can't let him do that. I won't. That's why you're leaving. Running away doesn't solve anything. It buys time. Keeps you out of the crossfire while I handle this. And how exactly are you planning to handle it? Lena looked up at him. What are you going to do, Roman? What happens when I'm gone and it's just you against Marchetti and all his men? Roman didn't answer. Didn't have to. The look in his eyes said everything. No, Lena said. Absolutely not. It's the only way. It's suicide. You're talking about suicide. I'm talking about keeping the people I care about alive. He crouched down in front of her, took her hands. His were cold, shaking slightly. You asked me once why I push people away. This is why. Because in the end, the only person who gets hurt is me, and I can live with that. Well, I can't. Lena gripped his hands tight. I can't live with you throwing yourself away like you don't matter. Like your life is worth less than everyone else's. It is worth less. To who? Not to Ivy. Not to Nina or Marcus or anyone else in this house who depends on you. She leaned forward, made him look at her. Not to me. Roman's face twisted. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're scared. You're so scared of losing people that you'd rather lose yourself. But that's not brave, Roman. That's just giving up. What do you want me to do? His voice broke on the words. Tell me what the hell you want me to do, because I am out of ideas, I am out of moves, and every option I have ends with someone I care about getting hurt. Lena pulled one hand free, touched his face. Then maybe it's time to stop playing by their rules. Stop fighting alone. Let people help you. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. They stayed like that, kneeling on the floor of his office, while the house settled around them and outside the garden grew wild under the stars. Finally, Roman spoke. If you stay, I need you to do exactly what I say. No arguments, no running off. You stay where I can protect you. Okay. And Ivy, she stays too. You're not sending her away. She's already lost too much. She doesn't need to lose you thinking you're trying to save her. Roman's eyes closed. If anything happens to her, nothing's going to happen to her, or to me, or to you. Lena pulled him closer, wrapped her arms around him, felt him hold on like she was the only solid thing in his world. We're going to figure this out, together. He didn't argue, just held her tighter. 2 days passed in a strange, suspended tension. The cars stayed at the gate. Roman stayed in his office, making calls, moving pieces on a chessboard Lena couldn't see. Marcus and the other guards rotated shifts, always watching. Nina cooked enough food for an army and threw most of it away. Lena worked in the garden because what else was she supposed to do? The lilies were in full bloom now, white and perfect and heartbreaking. Ivy helped when she could, but even she was quiet these days, scared. On the third day, the power went out. It happened just after sunset. 1 minute the house was lit, music playing somewhere upstairs. The next, darkness. Lena was in the library when it happened. She heard shouts, running footsteps, then Roman's voice, sharp with command, telling everyone to stay calm, stay inside, don't panic. She made her way to the hallway by feel, heart hammering, found Roman by the front door, flashlight in hand, already barking orders at Marcus. "Check the breaker," he said, "and the backup generator. Someone tripped something, or—" "It's not the breaker," Marcus interrupted, holding up his phone. "It's the whole grid. Someone cut the main line." Roman went very still. "Marchetti. Has to be. How long to get it back?" "Power company says minimum 4 hours, but with the damage, could be longer." A crash from outside made everyone freeze, got glass breaking, then laughter, male voices. Roman moved fast, grabbing Lena's arm and pulling her away from the door. "Basement, now." "What about Ivy?" "Nina's getting her. Move." They went down a narrow staircase Lena had never noticed before, into a basement that smelled like concrete and old paint. A generator sat in the corner, silent. Roman flipped switches, checking connections, swearing under his breath. "What can I do?" Lena asked. "Stay out of the way." More crashes from above, closer now. Someone was in the house. Roman froze, listening. Then he pulled a gun from somewhere, his jacket, maybe, and checked the chamber. The casual way he did it, like this was normal, made Lena's stomach turn. "Roman, if I tell you to run, you run. Understand? I'm not leaving you." "Lena." The basement door opened. Light flooded down the stairs. Flashlight beams cutting through the dark. Roman moved in front of Lena, gun raised. "Don't come down here." "Or what, Viscari?" A man's voice. Amused. "You'll shoot me? In your own basement? Come on, we both know you're smarter than that." 2 men came down the stairs. 3, 4, all armed, all smiling like this was fun. The first one, tall, lean, with a scar running down his left cheek, stepped close enough that Lena could smell his cologne. Expensive. Cloying. "Nice place you got here," he said. "Real homey. Though, I gotta say, the garden's a bit much." "What are you, starting a flower shop?" "What do you want, Vincent?" Roman's voice stayed level, but Lena could see the tension in every line of his body. "What do I want?" Vincent laughed. "I want you to stop making this difficult. Marchetti's offering you a clean exit. You step aside, keep your house, keep your sister. Hell, keep your little gardener, too." His eyes slid to Lena. "She's pretty. I can see why you're attached. Get out of my house." "Can't do that. Not until you give me an answer." "Here's my answer." Roman's finger tightened on the trigger. "No," Vincent sighed. "That's disappointing, really, because now I have to do things the hard way." He nodded to the men behind him. "Search the place, find the girl." "Ivy's got nothing to do with this." "She's got everything to do with this. She's your weakness. Soon as we have her, you'll cooperate." Roman fired. The bullet hit the concrete wall 6 inches from Vincent's head. The sound in the enclosed space was deafening. Lena's ears rang. The men scattered, pulling their own weapons, and suddenly the basement was chaos. Roman grabbed Lena and shoved her behind the generator. "Stay down!" She pressed herself flat against the cold metal, heart hammering so hard it hurt. Gunshots, shouting, someone screaming. She couldn't tell who was winning, couldn't see anything except flashes of light and shadows moving too fast. Then Roman was beside her, bleeding from a cut above his eye, breathing hard. "When I say go, you run. Out the back door, through the garden. Don't stop until you're past the gates." "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." "You're lying." He grabbed her face, made her look at him. In the chaos and darkness and fear, his eyes were steady, clear. "Lena, listen to me. I need you to trust me. Just this once. Can you do that? She wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but the look on his face stopped her. Okay, she whispered. Good. He kissed her, fast and hard and desperate. Now go! Lena ran. She burst out of the basement, through the kitchen, out the back door into the garden. Rain had started again, cold and sharp. She could barely see, could barely breathe, but she kept running. Past the greenhouse, past the fountain, toward the gates. Behind her, more gunshots. Shouting. A scream that might have been Nina. She almost stopped, almost turned around. But then she remembered Roman's face, the way he'd looked at her, and she kept going. She was halfway to the gates when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong, small, frightened. Lena? Ivy stepped out from behind a tree, soaking wet, her yellow dress plastered to her skin. She was crying. Oh my God! Lena grabbed her, pulled her close. What are you doing out here? I got scared. I heard the guns and I ran and I didn't know where to go. It's okay, I've got you. Lena looked back at the house, dark except for flashlight beams moving behind windows. We need to keep moving. What about Roman? He's coming. He'll meet us. She hoped that was true. They made it to the gates just as headlights cut through the rain. A car pulled up, engine running. The passenger door opened and Marcus leaned out. Get in! Lena didn't hesitate. She pushed Ivy into the back seat and climbed in after her. The car was already moving before she got the door closed. Where's Roman? She asked. Marcus's jaw clenched. Still in the house. We have to go back. We have orders. Get you and Ivy clear. That's it. Marcus, please. He'll be fine. He always is. But Marcus's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel, and he wouldn't meet her eyes. They drove in silence through the rain, and Lena held Ivy close and tried not to think about the basement, about guns and blood and Roman's face when he'd told her to run. Tried not to think about the fact that she'd left him behind. The safe house turned out to be an apartment above a restaurant in a part of the city Lena didn't recognize. Small, clean, anonymous. Marcus checked every room twice before letting them in. You'll stay here tonight, he said. I'll send someone in the morning. I want to go back, Lena said. Not happening. Marcus, he told me to keep you safe. That's what I'm doing. He crouched down in front of Ivy, his expression softening. Hey, kiddo, you okay? Ivy shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Yeah, Marcus said quietly. I know. But you're safe now. That's what matters. Is Roman going to die? Ivy's voice came out small and broken. No. He's too stubborn to die. Marcus stood, looked at Lena. Keep the doors locked. Don't answer for anyone except me. Understand? Wait. But he was already gone. Lena locked the door, then sank down beside Ivy on the worn couch. The girl crawled into her lap, still crying, and Lena held her while rain pounded the windows, and somewhere across the city, Roman fought battles she couldn't help him win. He'll be okay, Lena whispered. He has to be okay. She wasn't sure if she was trying to convince Ivy or herself. Hours passed. Ivy finally fell asleep, exhausted from crying. Lena stayed awake, watching the door, waiting for Marcus to come back. For Roman to walk through with that steady, controlled expression and tell her everything was handled. The knock came just before dawn. 3 sharp raps. Lena eased out from under Ivy, grabbed the nearest thing she could use as a weapon, a lamp, and went to the door. Who is it? Marcus. She opened the door. Marcus stood in the hallway, soaking wet, blood on his shirt. But he was alone. Where is he? Lena demanded. Hospital. The floor dropped out from under her. Is he alive? But it's bad, Lena. Vincent got a shot off before we could... Marcus stopped, composed himself. Roman told me to tell you the garden looks beautiful, that you kept your end of the deal. I don't care about the deal. Lena grabbed her coat. Take me to him. He said you'd say that. He also said no. I'm not asking permission. Marcus sighed but stepped aside. Fine, but we leave Ivy here. Nina's on her way. Lena looked back at the sleeping girl, then made her decision. She wrote a quick note, left it where Ivy would see it, and followed Marcus out into the rain. The hospital was white and sterile and smelled like antiseptic. Marcus led her through hallways that all looked the same, past nurses who didn't look twice at the blood on his clothes, to a room at the end of a quiet corridor. Roman lay in the bed, monitors beeping steadily. His chest was bandaged, his face was pale, but his eyes were open, and when he saw her, something in them softened. "You're supposed to be at the safe house," he said. "Yeah, well." Lena pulled a chair close to the bed, took his hand. "I've never been good at following orders." His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "I noticed." "What happened?" "Vincent's in custody. So are his men. Marchetti lost his leverage." Roman's grip tightened on her hand. "It's over." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Lena looked at the bandages, at the monitors, at the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "You could have died." "But I didn't." "You could have." "Lena, don't." She leaned forward, pressed her forehead to his. "Don't act like it doesn't matter. Don't act like losing you wouldn't—" Her voice broke. "I can't do this if you're going to keep throwing yourself into danger like your life means nothing." Roman's free hand came up, touched her face. "It means something now." "What?" "My life. It means something now. Because of you." The words hung between them, fragile and new and terrifying. "So don't waste it," Lena whispered. "Don't you dare waste it." "I won't," he promised. "Not anymore." She kissed him then, gentle and careful, mindful of his injuries. When she pulled back, there were tears on her cheeks. "The garden's finished," Roman said quietly. "Your debt's paid. You're free to go." Lena shook her head. "I don't want to go." "You should." "Roman, I'm serious. This life, this world I'm in, it almost got you killed. It almost got Ivy killed. You deserve better than that." "Maybe." Lena settled into the chair, still holding his hand. "But I'm not going anywhere, so you're stuck with me." He looked at her for a long moment. Then finally he smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Okay," he said. "Okay." Outside, the sun was rising. Somewhere across the city, in a garden that had been dead and was now blooming, life was pushing up through the soil. And for the first time in years, Roman Viscari let himself hope that maybe, just maybe, some things could be saved after all. Roman spent 5 days in the hospital before the doctors cleared him to go home. 5 days of Lena sitting in that uncomfortable chair, of Ivy sneaking in after school with drawings and stories, of Nina bringing food no one had an appetite for. 5 days of Marcus standing guard outside the door, of lawyers coming and going with papers to sign, of Roman making phone calls that always ended with him exhausted and pale. On the 6th day, they finally let him leave. The estate looked different when they pulled through the gates, quieter somehow. The guards were still there, but fewer of them. The cars that had been parked outside for weeks were gone. Even the house itself seemed to breathe easier, like it had been holding tension in its walls and finally let go. Lena helped Roman up the front steps, his arm around her shoulders, moving slow. The bullet had missed anything vital, but recovery was going to take time. Weeks, the doctor said, maybe months before he was back to full strength. "I can walk on my own," Roman muttered. "I know you can." "Then why? Because I want to help. Let me help." He didn't argue after that. Inside, Nina had prepared everything. Fresh sheets on the bed, flowers on the nightstand, white lilies from the garden, and enough food to feed a small army. She took one look at Roman, pale and moving like every step hurt, and her eyes went wet. "Welcome home, sir," she said quietly. "Thank you, Nina." Ivy appeared at the top of the stairs, hesitated, then came flying down and threw herself at Roman carefully, mindful of his injuries. He caught her with his good arm, held her tight. "You scared me," Ivy said into his shirt. "I know. I'm sorry. Don't do it again." "I'll try." She pulled back, looked up at him with those big brown eyes. "Promise?" Roman glanced at Lena, then back at Ivy. "I promise." The first week was hard. Roman hated being stuck in bed, hated needing help with basic things, hated the constant parade of doctors and physical therapists who came to check on him. He was a terrible patient, snapped at everyone, refused to rest, tried to work from his laptop until Lena physically removed it from his reach. "You're supposed to be recovering," she said. "I am recovering. I'm just doing it while working." "That's not how recovery works." "Says who?" Says every medical professional who's walked through this door in the last 3 days. Lena set the laptop on top of a high shelf. You need to rest. Actually rest. Not just lie in bed while your brain runs 100 miles an hour. Roman glared at her. I have responsibilities. Marcus is handling them. Marcus isn't me. No, he's better rested and not recovering from a gunshot wound. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, softened her voice. I know this is hard for you, letting go, trusting other people to handle things. But you have to try. And if something goes wrong, then we deal with it together. She took his hand. You're not alone anymore, Roman. Stop acting like you are. He looked at their joined hands for a long moment. I don't know how to do this. Do what? This. Any of this. Being cared for, letting people in. His voice went rough. My whole life has been about control, about making sure I'm the one calling the shots, and now I can't even get out of bed without help. It's temporary. I know, but it feels... He stopped, searching for words. Weak. It feels weak. Lena squeezed his hand. You took a bullet protecting your home and the people you care about. That's not weak. That's the opposite of weak. Then why does it feel like I'm failing? Because you're human, and humans aren't supposed to do everything alone. She leaned in, kissed him gently. Let me carry some of it for a while. Please. Roman's eyes closed. When he opened them again, something in his expression had shifted, softer, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Okay, he whispered. Okay. The garden became Lena's refuge during those first weeks. While Roman slept or worked through physical therapy exercises, she'd slip outside and lose herself in the familiar work. The beds needed constant attention now that everything was blooming. Deadheading, weeding, watering in the early morning before the heat got too intense. Ivy helped when she could, but mostly she stayed close to Roman, like she was afraid that if she let him out of her sight, he might disappear. Lena understood that fear, felt it herself every time she woke in the middle of the night and had to fight the urge to check that he was still breathing. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Roman came home, Marcus found Lena in the garden. Got a minute? He asked. Lena set down her pruning shears. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I need to show you something. He gestured toward the greenhouse. In there. Curious, Lena followed him. Inside the greenhouse was warm and humid, full of seedlings she'd started for fall planting. Marcus led her to the back corner where a tarp covered something large. What is this? Lena asked. Roman asked me to bring it down from storage, said it belonged to his mother. Marcus pulled the tarp off, revealing a beautiful wooden workbench, weathered but solid. Attached to the front was a small brass plate engraved with words, for the gardener who brings life to dead places. Lena's breath caught. When did he... Had it made while he was in the hospital. Said he wanted you to have a proper workspace. She ran her fingers over the smooth wood, the careful joinery, the brass plate. It must have cost a fortune to have made so quickly, and the fact that Roman had thought of it while recovering from a gunshot wound made her chest tight. He loves you, you know, Marcus said quietly. Won't say it out loud, probably never will, but he does. I've known him 15 years and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Lena blinked back tears. I love him too. Good. Because he needs someone who's not afraid to push back. Someone who sees him as more than just... Marcus gestured vaguely. All of this. The money, the power, the reputation. He's more than that. He's always been more than that. We know, but he spent so long pretending otherwise, I think he forgot. Marcus headed for the door, then paused. The workbench isn't the only thing he had made. There's something else. In the fountain. What do you mean? Go look. He left before she could ask more questions. Lena walked out to the fountain, now running clear and constant, water trickling over stone. At first she didn't see anything different. Then she noticed it. A new stone set into the basin's edge, darker than the others. Carved into its surface was a single word, hope. She stood there for a long time, listening to the water, running her fingers over that single carved word, and felt something shift inside her chest, something fundamental and permanent. That night, after Ivy was asleep and the house had gone quiet, Lena slipped into Roman's room. He was awake, reading by lamplight, and looked up when she entered. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Didn't try. She climbed into bed beside him, careful of his healing injuries. I saw the workbench and the fountain. Do you like them? I love them. She curled against his side, felt his arm come around her. Thank you. You earned them. The garden? He stopped, searching for words. My mother would have loved what you've done with it. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you. You're stubborn like she was. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Roman's fingers traced idle patterns on her shoulder. She used to say that gardens were proof that beautiful things could grow anywhere, even in the darkest soil. I never understood what she meant until you showed up. Lena tilted her head to look at him. Are you saying I'm beautiful, or that you're dark soil? Both, probably. He almost smiled. Definitely both. They lay in comfortable silence for a while. Then Roman said, I've been thinking. About what? About what happens next. After I'm healed. After things go back to normal. Lena's stomach tightened. What do you mean? I mean that normal for me isn't... He struggled with the words. It isn't safe. The business I'm in, the people I deal with, even with Marchetti handled, there will be others. There's always others. I know that. And you're still here. Of course I'm still here. Roman was quiet for a beat. Why? Because I want to be. Because when I imagine leaving, imagine going back to my tiny apartment and my old job and my life before all of this, I can't picture it anymore. It feels like trying to put on clothes that don't fit. She propped herself up on one elbow, looked him in the eye. This is where I belong now. With you. With Ivy. Here. It won't be easy. I don't care. There will be danger, risk, things I can't control. I know. You could get hurt. Or worse. Roman. She touched his face, made him focus. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Stop trying to protect me from a future I'm choosing on my own. His hand came up, covered hers. I'm terrified of losing you. Then hold on tight and don't let go. He pulled her down, kissed her with an intensity that stole her breath. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he said. Simple. Direct. Like the words had been waiting years to get out. Lena smiled. I know. That's not the response I was hoping for. I love you too, you impossible man. His laugh was quiet, a little broken, completely genuine. Good. That's good. They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time since the shooting, Roman slept through the night without nightmares. But peace never lasted long. The call came 3 days later, early morning, Marcus's voice tight with barely controlled anger. Lena answered on the second ring. What's wrong? There's a situation. I need you to get Roman and bring him to his office. Now. He's not supposed to be us. I know, but this can't wait. Lena found Roman already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking pale but determined. He'd heard Marcus's voice through the phone. What happened? He asked. I don't know, but Marcus sounded... She stopped. Scared. Marcus had sounded scared. We should go. Roman moved slowly but steadily down the stairs, Lena at his elbow. In the office, Marcus stood with another man Lena didn't recognize. Older, gray-haired, expensive suit. He looked up when they entered and his expression was grim. Roman, he said, we have a problem. Talk. The man glanced at Lena. Roman followed his gaze, then said flatly, she stays. Whatever it is, she stays. The man sighed. Marchetti's lawyer filed an appeal, claims his client was set up, that evidence was planted. And apparently they have a witness who says Vincent was acting on your orders, not Marchetti's. Lena felt Roman go rigid beside her. That's impossible. I know, but the witness is credible. Former associate of yours turned informant, says he has proof you orchestrated the whole thing to eliminate competition. Who? The man hesitated. David Chen. The name clearly meant something. Roman's face went white, then red. David's been dead for 2 years. Apparently not. He's been in witness protection, and now he's willing to testify. Marcus swore under his breath. Lena looked between them, trying to understand. Who's David Chen? Someone I trusted. Roman said quietly. Someone I thought was loyal. Turns out I was wrong. The lawyer continued. If this goes to trial, if Chen testifies, it won't matter that Marchetti was guilty. The case falls apart, Marchetti walks, and you... He stopped. I go to prison, Roman finished, for attempted murder, for everything they can pin on me. We can fight this. How? With what? If David's testifying, he has details, things only someone inside would know. Roman sat down heavily in his desk chair. He can destroy me. Silence fell over the office. Lena's mind raced, trying to find a solution, a way out, anything. But this was beyond her. This was Roman's world, the dangerous, complicated world she'd known existed, but never truly understood until now. There has to be something we can do, she said. The lawyer shook his head. I'll look for angles, but if Chen's testimony is as detailed as they're claiming, then I'm done, Roman said. His voice was flat, defeated. That's what you're not saying. I'm done. Roman, no, Lena started. Yes. He looked up at her, and his eyes were hollow. This is what I tried to warn you about. This is why I wanted you gone, because eventually it all falls apart. It always does. We'll find a way. There is no way. Not this time. Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, there might be. Everyone turned to look at him. Chen's in witness protection, right? Marcus continued. That means he's untouchable through normal channels. But what if we don't go through normal channels? What are you suggesting? The lawyer asked carefully. I'm suggesting we find him, talk to him, figure out why he's doing this and what it would take to make him stop. That's illegal, the lawyer said. If you contact a protected witness. I didn't say contact, I said find. Marcus looked at Roman. You pulled him out of a bad situation years ago, gave him a job when no one else would. He owes you. Maybe he just needs to be reminded of that. Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, even if we find him, even if we convince him to recant, it doesn't solve the larger problem. Marchetti's still out there, still dangerous, and now he knows I'm vulnerable. So we make him vulnerable too, Lena said. All three men looked at her. How? Roman asked. I don't know yet, but there has to be something, some weakness, some leverage. She moved closer, put her hand on Roman's shoulder. You said it yourself, in your world everyone has something to hide. So we find Marchetti's secrets and we use them. The lawyer looked skeptical. That's a dangerous game. More dangerous than doing nothing? Lena met his eyes. Roman saved my life, protected me and Ivy and everyone in this house. Now it's our turn to protect him. Marcus smiled, just slightly. I'll make some calls, see what I can find out about Chen's location. And I'll dig into Marchetti's business, the lawyer added. Quietly. Very quietly. When they left, Lena and Roman sat alone in the office. Outside, morning sun painted the garden gold. The lilies were still blooming, white and perfect against green leaves. You shouldn't get involved in this, Roman said. Too late. I'm already involved. Lena, no. Listen to me. She knelt in front of his chair, took both his hands. You spent weeks trying to push me away to keep me safe. It didn't work then, and it won't work now. We're in this together, remember? Whatever happens, we face it together. Roman's eyes searched her face. What if we can't fix this? What if I end up in prison? Then I'll visit you every week until you get out. And Ivy will too. And we'll keep the garden alive until you come home. She squeezed his hands. But we're not there yet. We're nowhere close to there yet. So stop acting like it's over and start fighting. Something shifted in his expression. The defeat faded, replaced by something harder, more determined. Okay, he said. Okay, let's fight. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Marcus tracked Chen to a small town 3 hours away, living under a new name, working at a hardware store. The lawyer dug up financial records showing Marchetti had been skimming from his own operation, keeping 2 sets of books, lying to his partners. And Roman, despite his injuries, threw himself into coordinating everything, making calls, pulling strings, using every contact he had. Lena stayed close, helping where she could, learning the intricacies of Roman's business in ways she never had before. It was messy, complicated, sometimes morally gray in ways that made her uncomfortable. But she didn't look away, didn't judge, just watched Roman work and understood Maybe for the first time, the impossible balance he'd been maintaining all these years. Late one night, she found him in his office, surrounded by papers, rubbing his temples. "You should rest," she said from the doorway. "Can't. There's too much to do." She came in, started gathering the scattered papers. "Then at least take a break. 5 minutes." "Lena, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Roman sighed but leaned back in his chair, watched her organize his desk with efficient movements. "How did I ever function without you?" "Poorly, I'm guessing." He almost smiled. "Probably." Lena finished with the papers, then came around the desk and sat on the edge. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "If we fix this, when we fix this, what happens next? Do you keep doing this? Fighting battles, making deals, living in constant danger?" Roman was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about that too. And I don't know if I can keep doing this. Not like before." He looked up at her. "When I was in that basement, when Vincent had a gun pointed at me, all I could think was that I didn't want to die without having actually lived, without having something real, something that mattered beyond territory and respect and all the things I thought were important. What do you want instead?" "This. You, Ivy, the garden." He reached for her hand. "A life that isn't just survival. Can you have that? In your world?" "I don't know, but I want to try." Roman's grip tightened. "I want to find a way to step back, to be less involved in the dangerous parts, more focused on the legitimate businesses. It won't be easy. Some people will see it as weakness, but maybe—" He stopped. "Maybe what?" "Maybe it's not weakness to choose life over death, love over fear." He pulled her closer. "Maybe that's actually strength." Lena leaned down, kissed him softly. "I think your mother would agree." "Yeah, I think she would too." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Nina appeared in Roman's office 3 days later, wringing her hands, looking terrified but determined. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about David Chen." Roman looked up from his desk. "What about him?" "He called here 2 years ago, right before he disappeared. I answered the phone." Nina's voice shook. "He was crying, said he was sorry, said he never wanted to betray you, but they threatened his daughter, said if he didn't cooperate, they'd kill her." The room went still. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Roman asked quietly. "Because he made me promise not to. Said if anyone knew, especially you, they'd kill her anyway." Tears streamed down Nina's face. "I'm sorry. I should have said something, but I was scared." "Nina, it's okay." Roman stood, moved around the desk. "It's okay. You did the right thing." "His daughter," Lena said slowly. "If Marchetti's people threatened her—" "Then David's not testifying because he wants to," Roman finished. "He's doing it because he has no choice." Marcus, who'd been standing in the corner, straightened. "So we find the daughter. Get her somewhere safe. Then David has no reason to lie." "Can we do that?" Lena asked. Roman's face hardened into something determined. "Yes, we can do that." It took another week, but they found her. David's daughter, Emma, living in a different witness protection program, unaware her father had been forced into testifying to keep her safe. Marcus and 2 others extracted her, carefully, legally, with federal cooperation, and brought her to a secure location. Then Roman went to see David himself. Lena insisted on coming. "It's not safe," Roman argued. "Safe." Roman was. "Neither was the basement. Neither was staying here during the attack. But I did both anyway." She grabbed her coat. "I'm coming." They drove in silence, Marcus at the wheel. The hardware store was small, run down, in a part of town that had seen better days. David was behind the counter, grayer than Lena expected, thinner, with the kind of tired eyes that came from years of looking over your shoulder. He went pale when he saw Roman. "We need to talk," Roman said quietly. David glanced at the security camera in the corner, then nodded. "Break room, 5 minutes." In the cramped room that smelled like stale coffee and bleach, David sat with his head in his hands while Roman told him about Emma, about the extraction, about the fact that she was safe now, protected by people Marchetti couldn't touch. "Why?" David asked, voice breaking. "Why would you help me after what I'm doing to you? Because you didn't have a choice, and because I remember what it's like to make impossible decisions to protect the people you love." Roman's voice was steady. kind, even. Your daughter's safe now, which means you can stop lying. If I recant, Marchetti will know I talked to you. He'll come after me. He won't get the chance. I have enough on him now to put him away for life. Financial crimes, racketeering, conspiracy. He's done. Roman leaned forward. But I need you to tell the truth, all of it, about why you disappeared, who threatened you, everything. David looked up, tears streaming down his face. He'll kill me. No, he won't, because you'll be under federal protection. Real protection, not the kind that leaves your daughter vulnerable. Roman's expression softened. I'm giving you a way out, David. Take it. For a long moment, David just sat there, shoulders shaking. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. The trial never happened. Once David recanted his testimony and provided evidence about the threats, once the lawyer presented the financial records showing Marchetti's illegal activities, once federal prosecutors saw the full picture, they offered Marchetti a deal. 20 years, no parole, in exchange for naming his associates and cooperating with ongoing investigations. He took it. Roman got a call on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 months after the shooting. Lena was in the garden planting bulbs for spring when she heard him shouting. Not angry shouting, celebratory shouting. She ran inside to find him in the hallway, phone still in hand, grinning like she'd never seen him grin before. It's over, he said. It's actually over. Lena threw her arms around him, careful of his still healing ribs, and felt him hold her tight. Marchetti took the deal. Chen's testimony is sealed. I'm clear. He pulled back, cupped her face. We're clear, all of us. That night they had dinner together. All of them. Roman, Lena, Ivy, Nina, Sarah, Marcus, and half a dozen others who worked at the estate. The dining room table was full for the first time in years, full of food and laughter and people who'd become family. Ivy sat on Lena's left, chattering about school. Marcus sat across from them, actually smiling. Roman sat at the head of the table, and every few minutes he'd look around like he couldn't quite believe this was real. After dinner, after Ivy had gone to bed and the others had drifted away, Lena and Roman walked out to the garden. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. The fountain ran clear and constant. Flowers bloomed in wild, beautiful tangles. I talked to my lawyer today, Roman said, about restructuring things. Stepping back from the more dangerous operations, focusing on the legitimate businesses. How did that go? Better than I expected. Turns out a lot of people have been waiting for me to make that move. They just didn't think I would. He stopped by the fountain, ran his fingers over the stone with hope carved into it. I'm going to set up a foundation, in my mother's name, for gardens and community projects and things that actually help people instead of, he gestured vaguely, all the other stuff. Lena's eyes stung. She'd love that. I hope so. Roman turned to face her. And I want you to run it. The foundation. You know gardens, you know what matters, and you're the only person I trust to actually make it work. Roman, I'm not qualified. Neither was I when I started, but you'll learn, and I'll help. He stepped closer. Say yes. This is crazy. Probably, but crazy seems to work for us. He smiled, that real smile that transformed his whole face. So say yes. Lena looked around at the garden they'd built together, at the house that was finally becoming a home, at the man who'd started as a stranger and become everything. Yes, she said. Of course, yes. Roman kissed her there in the fading light, surrounded by blooming flowers and the sound of running water, and for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt like something worth looking forward to. The foundation launched 6 months later on a crisp October morning, with enough fanfare to make Lena nervous and Roman quietly proud. They called it the Elena Vescari Foundation, after Roman's mother, and the mission was simple: bring green spaces to neighborhoods that had forgotten what growing things looked like. Lena stood in front of a room full of reporters and community leaders, and people who actually knew what they were doing, feeling like a fraud in her borrowed blazer, and tried not to panic. You'll be fine, Roman whispered beside her. Just tell them why it matters. What if I mess up? Then you mess up. They'll forgive you. He squeezed her hand. I promise. So Lena stepped up to the microphone and told the truth. About growing up in a neighborhood where the only green was the mold on the corner store's awning. About her mother's tiny garden that fed them when money was tight. about learning that soil remembers, that care comes back to you, that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is grow something beautiful in a place everyone else has given up on. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping, and Lena looked over at Roman, who was watching her like she'd just done something miraculous. Later, after the reporters left and the community leaders shook her hand and promised to work with her, after the day finally wound down, Lena found herself back at the estate, standing in the garden as the sun set. The place had changed so much since that first day when she'd arrived angry and scared and covered in coffee. The beds overflowed now with late-season blooms. The fountain ran clear. Even the greenhouse had been fully restored, its windows gleaming, full of seedlings for next year's projects. "Penny for your thoughts," Roman said, coming up behind her. "Just thinking about how different everything is." "Good different or bad different?" "Good. Definitely good." She leaned back against him. "Overwhelming, but good." Roman wrapped his arms around her waist. "You were amazing today." "I was terrified." "Doesn't make it less amazing." He kissed the top of her head. "My mother would have loved you, you know. Loved what you're doing with the foundation. Loved how you got me to actually care about something other than staying alive." "I didn't get you to do anything. You chose it. Because you showed me it was possible." His arms tightened. "Before you, I was just surviving. Going through the motions, telling myself that staying cold and distant was the same as staying safe. And now? Now I'm actually living. It's terrifying and unpredictable, and sometimes I wake up in a panic thinking I'm going to lose it all. But it's real, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." They stood like that while the sky turned orange and purple, and finally, deep blue. Somewhere in the house, Ivy was doing homework. Nina was cooking dinner. Marcus was probably checking the security feeds one last time before his shift ended. Normal things, boring things. The kind of things Roman had spent years avoiding because they felt too much like vulnerability. "I have something for you," Roman said finally. "What?" He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring box. Something flatter. When Lena opened it, she found a key on a simple silver chain. "What's this for?" she asked. "Officially, the foundation's office downtown, but also," he looked almost nervous, "also for here, for home. I want you to stop thinking of this place as somewhere you're staying temporarily and start thinking of it as yours." Lena's throat went tight. "Roman, I know we haven't talked about the future, haven't made any big plans or promises, but I need you to know that whatever happens, you have a place here, always. This is your home if you want it to be." She turned in his arms, looked up at him. "Is this your way of asking me to move in permanently?" "Yes, if that's what you want." "What about what you want?" Roman's expression went soft, vulnerable in a way that still surprised her sometimes. "I want you here, every morning, every night. I want to wake up next to you and come home to you and build something real with you. I want—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I want everything, Lena, if you'll give it to me." She kissed him instead of answering with words. Kissed him until they were both breathless, until the garden around them disappeared and there was nothing but this moment, this person, this impossible, beautiful thing they'd built from nothing. "Yes," she said finally. "Yes to all of it." The first year of the foundation was chaos. Good chaos, mostly, but still chaos. Lena spent her days meeting with community groups, sourcing plants, teaching workshops on basic gardening. Roman handled the business side, leveraging his contacts to get donations, to smooth over permit issues, to make things happen that would have taken normal nonprofits years to accomplish. They started small. A vacant lot in the neighborhood where Lena grew up transformed into a community garden with raised beds and a small greenhouse. An elementary school in the south part of the city that got a butterfly garden and outdoor classroom. A senior center that wanted herb gardens the residents could tend. Each project taught them something new, about what worked and what didn't, about how to listen to communities instead of imposing ideas on them, about the difference between charity and partnership. "We messed up the drainage at the Jefferson Street garden," Lena told Roman one night, flopping onto the couch in his office. 3 beds flooded after that storm last week. "Can we fix it?" "Yeah, but it's going to cost more than we budgeted." Roman didn't even look up from his laptop. "How much more?" 5,000, maybe 6. Done. I'll move money around tomorrow. Lena sat up. Just like that? Just like that. He glanced at her. What? Nothing. It's just, sometimes I forget how much money you actually have. Does it bother you? No. It's just weird sometimes. I spent my whole life counting pennies, and now I'm casually talking about moving around thousands of dollars like it's nothing. Roman closed his laptop, gave her his full attention. The money's just a tool. It doesn't mean anything unless we use it for something that matters. And this matters. Yeah, Lena said softly. It does. Ivy grew up fast that year. Too fast, Roman complained, watching her shoot up 3 inches and start caring about things like what she wore to school and whether boys were looking at her. She's 9, Roman said one morning, watching Ivy fuss with her hair in the hallway mirror. Since when does she care about her hair? Since she became a person with opinions, Lena said, amused. Get used to it. This is just the beginning. I don't like it. You don't have to like it. You just have to support her. Roman made a sound somewhere between a groan and a laugh. When did you become the expert on parenting? Around the same time you decided to actually be present instead of hiding in your office. Lena kissed his cheek. You're doing fine, by the way, in case you were wondering. I wasn't. Liar. He smiled despite himself. The truth was, Roman had gotten better at the whole guardian thing. He ate dinner with Ivy every night now, helped with homework, or tried to anyway, until the math got too complicated and he had to call Marcus for backup. He even showed up to her school play, sitting in the front row with Lena, watching Ivy play a talking tree with the kind of fierce concentration usually reserved for business negotiations. She's really good, Roman whispered during the performance. She's standing still and saying 3 lines, Lena whispered back. Yes, but she's doing it with conviction. After the play, Ivy ran up to them, still in her tree costume, grinning so wide it looked like her face might split. Did you see me? She demanded. You were perfect, Roman said seriously. I messed up one of my lines. Didn't notice. Really? Really? He pulled her into a hug, costume branches and all. I'm proud of you, Ivy. The girl's face went soft. Thanks, Roman. Watching them together, Lena felt something settle in her chest. This was what healing looked like. Not perfect, not smooth, but real. 2 people who'd lost so much learning to hold on to what they still had. The second year brought challenges they hadn't anticipated. A developer tried to buy out one of their community gardens, offering enough money that some residents wanted to take the deal. A city council member started asking pointed questions about Roman's past, suggesting the foundation was just a way to launder dirty money. And one of their biggest donors pulled funding after reading a hit piece about Roman in the local paper. We're going to be fine, Roman said during an emergency board meeting. We have reserves, other donors. This is a setback, not a catastrophe. But the optics, one board member started. The optics are that I'm a man with a complicated past trying to do something good with his present. If people can't accept that, they don't have to work with us. Roman's voice stayed level, calm. But I'm not apologizing for who I was. I'm just committed to being better now. After the meeting, Lena found him standing alone in the foundation's conference room, staring out the window at the city below. You okay? She asked. I knew this would happen eventually, knew my past would come back to haunt this. I just hoped we'd have more time. We'll survive this. Will we? Roman turned to look at her. What if I'm poison, Lena? What if everything I touch eventually falls apart because of who I used to be? Then we'll rebuild. We've done it before. She crossed to him, took his hand. You're not poison. You're just human. And humans make mistakes and learn from them and try to do better. That's literally all anyone can do. Some mistakes are bigger than others. True. But you didn't kill anyone. You didn't destroy lives for fun. You survived in a system that was rigged against you, and you did what you had to do. Lena squeezed his hand. Now you're trying to give back, to make things better. And if people can't see that, if they can't see you, then screw them. Roman's mouth twitched. Screw them. Absolutely. Screw them and their judgment and their inability to believe people can change. She stepped closer. I believe you've changed. Ivy believes it. Everyone who works with the foundation believes it. That's what matters. He pulled her into a hug, held on tight. What did I do to deserve you? Spilled coffee on yourself. His laugh was muffled against her hair. Best mistake I ever made. They weathered the storm. Other donors stepped up to replace the one they lost. The city council investigation found nothing illegal and quietly went away. The community gardens stayed open, thriving, becoming gathering places for neighborhoods that hadn't had them before. And slowly, carefully, Roman's reputation began to shift. Not completely, not overnight. But people started seeing him as more than just his past, started recognizing the work he was doing, the lives the foundation was changing. We got written up in the Times, Lena told him one morning, holding up her phone. Positive article. Talks about the work we're doing. Interviews some of the community garden members. They barely mention your past except to say you're working to make amends. Roman read the article twice like he couldn't quite believe it was real. This is good. This is great. We should celebrate. How? He looked at her with that slight smile that still made her heart skip. I have an idea. The idea turned out to be a weekend away. Just the two of them, leaving Ivy with Nina, leaving the foundation in Marcus's capable hands, and driving up the coast to a small town Roman knew from childhood. We came here once, he told Lena as they walked along the beach. My mother and me and Ivy, back when Ivy was barely walking. Mom loved the ocean, said it reminded her that the world was bigger than whatever problems we were facing. Do you remember it, that trip? Bits and pieces. I remember her being happy, really happy, not just pretending. Roman picked up a smooth stone, turned it over in his fingers. That was maybe 6 months before she got sick, before everything fell apart. Lena threaded her fingers through his. I'm glad you had that time with her. Me too. He tossed the stone into the waves. I think she'd like what we're doing, with the foundation, with our lives. I think she'd be proud of you. I hope so. Roman stopped walking, turned to face Lena. The ocean crashed behind them, salt spray in the air, the sun just starting to set. I want to ask you something. Okay, I'm not good at this. At the romantic gesture thing, at saying the right words or making big speeches. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. A ring box this time. But I know that I love you, that you changed my life in ways I didn't know were possible. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of what you've given me. Lena's breath caught. So I'm asking, Roman continued, opening the box to reveal a simple silver band with a small diamond. Will you marry me? Will you take a chance on a man who's still figuring out how to be better, but is committed to trying every single day? Lena looked at the ring, at Roman's face, nervous and hopeful and so completely open, and felt tears spill down her cheeks. Yes, she said. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like salt water and happiness, and the kind of future neither of them had believed was possible a few years ago. When they told Ivy, the girl screamed so loud Nina came running from the kitchen thinking someone was hurt. You're getting married? Ivy bounced on the couch, grinning. Really actually married? Really actually, Lena confirmed. Can I be in the wedding? You can be whatever you want to be in the wedding. Ivy threw her arms around Lena, then Roman, then both of them together. This is the best thing that's ever happened. I thought getting the lead in the school play was the best thing that ever happened, Roman said, amused. That was last week. This is now. Keep up, Roman. He laughed, genuine and full, and Lena watched him with Ivy and felt something slot into place. This was family. Not perfect, not without complications, but real and messy and full of love. They got married in the garden 6 months later, on a day when the lilies were blooming and the fountain was running clear and everything was alive with color. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Nina cried through the whole thing. Marcus stood as Roman's best man and made a speech about how he never thought he'd see the day Roman Vescari smiled this much. Ivy was the flower girl and took her job so seriously she made everyone wait while she got each petal placement exactly right. Lena's mother came, her eyes wet as she watched her daughter marry a man she'd been terrified of when they first met, but had come to love. You sure about this? Her mother whispered while they waited to start the ceremony. Never been more sure of anything, Lena said. He's a good man. Underneath all the scary stuff, he's good. I know, Mama. And he loves you something fierce. I know that too. Her mother kissed her cheek. Then let's get you married. Roman waited at the end of the garden path, looking like he might pass out from nerves, and when Lena started walking toward him, his whole face transformed, soft, open, completely vulnerable. The ceremony was short, simple vows about choosing each other every day, about building a life together, about facing whatever came next as partners. When the officiant said they could kiss, Roman pulled Lena close and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. The reception lasted until after dark. String lights in the trees, music and laughter and dancing on the lawn. At one point, Lena saw Roman standing with Ivy, teaching her how to dance properly, both of them laughing when she stepped on his feet. "You did good, kid," Marcus said, appearing beside Lena with 2 glasses of champagne. "We did good," she corrected. "Nah, this was mostly you." He handed her a glass. 5 years ago, Roman was a ghost, just going through the motions, waiting for the next crisis. Now look at him. They both looked. Roman had given up on teaching Ivy proper dance steps and was now just spinning her around while she shrieked with delight. "He's happy," Marcus continued. "Actually happy. That's because of you." "It's because of both of us," Lena said. "And Ivy, and everyone who refused to let him stay locked in his own head. Maybe, but you were the one who started it, who saw something worth saving when the rest of us had given up." Lena sipped her champagne, watched her husband, laugh at something Ivy said. "I didn't save him. He saved himself. I just reminded him it was possible." The years that followed were full. The foundation expanded, opening gardens in 3 more cities. Roman gradually stepped away from the last of his questionable business dealings, focusing entirely on legitimate operations and philanthropy. Ivy grew into a teenager who was somehow both brilliant and exasperating, who wanted to save the world and also argued about curfews. There were hard days. Days when old enemies surfaced and had to be handled. Days when the foundation struggled financially and they had to make difficult choices. Days when Lena and Roman fought about stupid things and had to learn to apologize, to compromise, to choose each other even when it was hard. But there were more good days. Days when they'd get letters from people whose lives the gardens had changed. Days when Ivy would come home from school excited about something she'd learned. Days when Roman would find Lena in the garden and just stand there watching her work with that soft expression that still made her heart skip. On their 5th anniversary, they planted a new section of the estate garden together. A memorial garden with a stone bench and plants that bloomed year-round. In the center, they placed a marker with Elena Viscari's name and the words, "She taught us that beautiful things can grow anywhere." Ivy helped plant the last of the lilies, now 16, and somehow both exactly the same and completely different from the little girl who'd first asked Lena about flowers. "Mom would have loved you," Ivy told Lena. "She would have loved what you've done with her garden, with Roman, with everything." "You think so?" "I know so." Ivy stood, wiping dirt from her hands. "She used to say that the right person could change the world. I think she meant you." Lena's eyes stung. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." "No, you're not. Most people would have run, would have stayed angry about being brought here against your will, would have given up on Roman when he tried to push you away." Ivy hugged her tight. "But you stayed. You fought. You made him believe he could be something other than what everyone expected." "We made each other believe that," Lena said quietly. Roman joined them by the memorial garden, looking at the fresh-planted beds with satisfaction. "It looks good. It looks perfect," Ivy corrected. "Mom's smiling somewhere." "Yeah," Roman said softly. "I think she is." They stood together in the garden as the sun set, 3 people who'd found each other in chaos and built something steady, and Lena thought about how far they'd all come. About the girl who'd spilled coffee and the man who'd been too afraid to care, and the child who'd lost her mother but found a family. About how sometimes the most broken things can heal if someone's willing to stay and do the work. About how gardens aren't just about plants growing, they're about people growing too. 10 years after that first day, after the coffee and the forced debt, and the beginning of everything, Lena stood in the estate garden with their daughter, 3 years old, named Elena after Roman's mother, already fascinated by flowers, and told her about the day Mama had crashed into Papa and changed both their lives forever. "And then what happened?" Elena asked, touching a white lily gently. "Then we fell in love. Then we built all of this." Lena gestured at the garden stretching around them, wild and beautiful and alive. Then we learned that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. You just have to be brave enough to see them through. Like planting seeds? Exactly like planting seeds. You put them in the ground when everything looks dead, and you water them and care for them and have faith that something beautiful will come. Elena thought about this seriously. Can we plant seeds now? Sure, baby. What do you want to plant? Sunflowers, like Aunt Ivy's. Lena smiled, thinking about that first day with Ivy, two people who barely knew each other planting hope in dead soil. Sunflowers it is. They worked together in the warm afternoon sun while Roman watched from the terrace, older now, graying at the temples, but lighter somehow, free of the weight he'd carried for so long. He caught Lena's eye and she smiled back, and between them was everything they'd built together, everything they'd fought for, everything they'd become. That night, after Elena was asleep and the house was quiet, Lena and Roman walked through the garden one more time. It had become their tradition, this evening walk, checking on things that had been planted, noticing new growth, just being together in the space where their story had truly begun. Do you ever regret it? Roman asked. That first day? Do you ever wish you'd just avoided me, delivered the flowers somewhere else, never crashed into my life? Lena thought about it honestly, about the fear and anger and confusion of those early days, about all the hard moments that came after, about the work it had taken to build something real from such a broken beginning. Not even for a second, she said finally. Every hard moment, every fight, every time we almost gave up, it was worth it, because it led here, to this, to us. Roman pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. I love you. I love you too. They stood in the garden surrounded by lilies and roses and all the living things they'd coaxed from dead earth, and Lena thought about her mother's words from so long ago. Soil remembers. You treat it right, it gives back. They treated each other right, not perfectly, not smoothly, but with care and patience and a stubborn refusal to give up even when giving up would have been easier. And the garden had given back, had bloomed, had become something neither of them could have built alone. Above them, stars emerged in the darkening sky. The fountain ran clear and constant. Somewhere in the house, their daughter dreamed of sunflowers. And two people who'd been strangers bound by accident and anger had become partners bound by choice and love, proving that sometimes the best things in life grow from the most unlikely soil. All you have to do is be brave enough to plant the seeds and stay long enough to see them bloom.